Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Week 3 Penn State football check-in, which I guess is what we'll call this video. I don't know. It just feels so foreign to me that we have a bye week in Week 3, coming off a game against Bowling Green this early in the season. Oh, yeah, we got a bye, and there's no Penn State football on Saturday. So I wanted to come on here, just plop in, get some stuff off my chest, talk about some Penn State football because, yeah, it's killing me that we don't have any Penn State football to watch. So I figured we would discuss the tale of two games to start the year. Obviously, it was an amazing game against West Virginia. And we'll just get started with that. Just in general, don't let anybody take that game away from you. Because I already saw people, immediately after that West Virginia game, try and diminish how important, how significant, and how impressive that win was for Penn State. They're saying, oh, well, that's what Penn State was supposed to do. Or it's West Virginia. Who cares? No. There's a reason why that line started off in double digits, and then by kickoff, the spread was down to 7.5. It was because a lot of people had Penn State losing that game. That was upset central. They thought West Virginia was at least going to give us a game. I thought West Virginia was going to give us a game, but no. We just sucked the life out of that stadium. Not even after the rain delay. That was before the rain delay, or the lightning delay, technically, I guess. We go into halftime up 20-6. That stadium had no juice whatsoever. They were silent. And that was us. We did that. Could have been even worse if not for the lightning delay. We could have really ramped up that score. We pulled starters with over 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We could have bumped that up. It was 34-12, and that could have been 45-12. And even that, West Virginia didn't even score 12 points. They had the 3 points gifted to them because of the bad spot. And then the touchdown that they did score, they didn't even make it into the end zone. They were stopped on the 1/2 yard line. So, yeah, it was just a dominant performance. Don't let anybody take that away from you. That was such a pivotal win, not just for this football season, I think in the career for James Franklin, but we can get into that a little bit later. Also, don't let last week's game against Bowling Green take away from how much fun that West Virginia game was. Even though, yes, last week was a stinker. I couldn't believe what we were seeing. It was night and day compared to West Virginia. And that's why I think there are a lot of people who are very concerned because, yes, we come out against West Virginia and we play an elite game of football, but then we just lay an egg the next week against a much, much, much inferior opponent coming into our house. What's the deal? We'll talk about it all. I have 5 reasons for excitement and 5 reasons for concern. So we'll do pros, cons, positive, negatives, and then we'll wrap it up just overall feelings about where we're at. Again, it's still early in this season. It's a very small sample size. But I understand, again, why people are worried or maybe not as optimistic as they were to start the season. My number one reason for excitement and why Penn State fans who are a bit uneasy maybe about where this team is heading this year should feel more confident, it's undoubtedly Drew Aller. Drew Aller is playing like the best Penn State quarterback that I've ever seen in my lifetime. That is not hyperbole. I know it's a small sample size, and we're only 2 games in, and things could go wrong. I get it. But right now, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I had high hopes. I had high expectations for where Drew Aller would wind up and how his career would come to form at Penn State. This is beyond what I ever imagined. What he's doing right now, how he looks, the way he has such confidence in the pocket now. It's night and day compared to last year. He has the confidence. He has the ability. He's just slinging it. And Kotelnicki, his scheme and his offense, give him credit, has fully unlocked Drew Aller, which was the number one priority. We needed to fix the Drew Aller situation. We can't go any more time of people saying, oh, actually, I think Bo Perbula should be in a QB1. No, we have completely ended that conversation. Drew Aller is the guy, and who knows, might be a very, very highly sought-after NFL prospect come April. But not to get too ahead of ourselves, I saw some people critiquing Drew Aller in week 2, against Bowling Green. I don't know. I don't get that at all. I guess we were watching 2 completely different games. Yes, he had the bad pick in the corner of the end zone to Harrison Wallace, but to be totally fair, even though, yes, it was a bad decision and it came at a really bad part of the game because we were still neck and neck with Bowling Green, that's a mistake that he was deprived of making last year as a first-year starter. That was a first-year starter mistake. But we didn't throw the ball downfield at all last year. We didn't take chances last year. It was a conservative, bland, dink and dunk type of offense that was not conducive to Drew Aller's skill set. And we robbed him of the opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them last year. So, yeah, there is still a bit of a learning curve right now. Even though he's in year 3, his second year as a starter, There are still going to be mistakes. We're going to roll the dice. We're going to take risks, and he's going to have to fail at times. So I'm fine with that coming week 2 against Bowling Green as opposed to later on in the year in November against Ohio State. Again, bad throw, totally his fault, but you can live with it because the good and those plays that hit downfield and those touchdowns where he is converted, they're awesome. they're incredible. The throw he had to Nick Singleton, where Nick Singleton comes out of the backfield and he winds up wide open in the middle of the field, he rifled that throw in there into the end zone. And credit to Nick Singleton as a running back being able to make that catch and hold on to it. He had 3 plays alone in the West Virginia game, Drew Aller that is, that were NFL throws. And you looked at him and you're like, oh my God, if this is what we're getting all year, we're in for a ride. I mean, I remember I was running around in my backyard after the back of the end zone corner throw to the fade to Harrison Wallace to end the first half against West Virginia. I was running around my backyard. I couldn't believe what we were watching. I was like, this is insanity. And this is another thing. I love the fact that right after that play, Drew Aller, I don't know if he was trash talking or if he was just, rallying players up. He was barking after that play, and you could see him strutting, and he's feeling himself. It's a completely different Drew Aller, not just in terms of what we're doing with him on the field. I didn't even talk about the way that he's running. We'll get to that in a second. But in terms of his confidence and his poise in the pocket and how he just feels so comfortable and he's more vocal, I always question his leadership. I said, this is our quarterback. I don't know if he could be a leader. Clifford, best leader. Trace McSorley was the best leader. I came into this year, I'm thinking Drew Aller is kind of this soft-spoken guy. I don't know if he's somebody you rally around. I don't know if he's somebody that can light a fire in somebody else. No, that's changed. That has changed. He's vocal, and he's strutting, and he's letting you know that he's hot stuff right now. And I love everything about it. So that's another thing. I think the main thing that has separated him from last year, too, in terms of what he's been able to do on the football field, aside from the leadership stuff and the vocal stuff and everything, it's that he finally has trust. He has trust in the OC. He has trust in the play calling. He has trust that his receivers are going to catch the ball, even though Amari Evans did have a rough drop last week against Bowling Green on 3rd down. I don't think he had any of that last year. Right now, I think if you're Drew Aller, you can read a defense, and because of how good this scheme is and how creative the play calling is, you're fully confident that there's going to be somebody wide open, and all you have to do is just put it on time, on target, and it's going to be a big chunk play down the field. That happened a couple times against West Virginia, and it happened last week against Bowling Green, even though, yes, it was a bit overshadowed by the defensive effort and how close that game was, how much of a stinker that game was. There were still plays that were wide open, and Drew Aller capitalized on them. If he's just able to throw it on time, on target, he could trust somebody's going to be open and they're going to catch it. Didn't have that last year. We are now a legitimate threat in the passing game. Drew Aller is top 10 in the country in QBR, and he's leading the Big Ten in yards per attempt. We're moving the ball downfield. We're explosive again. And that's not even taking into account the fact that if Amari Evans doesn't push off on a throw he did not need to push off on at all, he was a step or two ahead of the defender, and the defender wasn't even looking towards the ball. But regardless, that's not taking into account that was a 50, 60-yard completion. That would have been another huge play to add to Drew Aller's stats. He has been incredible throwing the ball deep. We've allowed him to throw the ball deep. Throwing the ball, he had one effortless throw to Harrison Wallace in the West Virginia game where he's throwing across the field to the far sideline on an out route. It was placed perfectly. This is an NFL quarterback. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen in my Penn State football lifetime. I hope it continues to go on the way that it is. I'm praying for it because it's a lot of fun right now. Again, it's the trust, it's the confidence. His decision-making has been elite aside from that one interception. And I said we'll get to it. Running the football, he's been pretty damn good. He's been pretty damn good at running the football. And I was nervous coming into this year because I was like, I hope we're not putting him in option plays. There was a lot of talk how he shed 10 pounds and we're going to be utilizing him more in the running game. I thought it was going to be a lot more design runs. I thought we were going to be putting him in harm's way. No, so far, for the most part, it has been just him realizing there's nothing open, but there's a ton of green grass ahead of me, and let's just run it. There was one play, I think it was 3rd and 9 against West Virginia, where he's going through his reads, which he's been great at again this year. He's going through his reads, sees nobody's open, But then there was a chance that there might have been somebody streaking across the middle of the field, and he goes to throw it to them, but then he realizes that there's a defender about to light them up. So as he's in the middle of his throwing motion, he tucks it in and then decides to scamper for a first down. He has been faster. He has been so good at reading the blocks and trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get the most yardage? It's been really, really fun to watch. And I've been totally okay with how we've utilized him on his feet, and he's done a really good job of improving that part of his game. He is going to be a legitimate prospect at the end of this year, and we got to make sure that this year, because it's probably going to be the last one we have with him, we make the most of this situation. He has been a godsend for this offense, and again, credit to Nittany for fully unleashing him. The other thing that Nittany really needed to fix was the Nick Singleton situation, and his explosiveness on the ground. Seems like that's been taken care of within a span of 2 games. They quantify explosive run plays, I believe, as run plays over 12 yards or more. Nick Singleton had 4 of those plays last year, all of last year. He has 4 to start this year in the first 2 games. And the 4 last year, that's strictly on the ground. And here, too, strictly on the ground. He's had 4 rushes of more than 12 yards. He has a 41-yarder, a 40-yarder, a 40-yarder, and then a 24-yarder. His longest run all of last year was 24 yards. So we're getting that explosiveness back. He's been electric to watch. And in fairness, so has Kaytron Allen. The run game, I guess it's complementary. Like, if the pass game is good, it allows more opportunity for the running backs. I don't know. It's been a blessing that we have solved these issues so quickly. And again, things could change, but these first 2 games, passing's been incredible. And then the running backs have been incredible, and we've gotten the explosiveness back in the run game. Nick Singleton is back to feeling confident. We've got the thunder and lightning with him and Kaytron Allen. It's back. This offense, even though, yes, there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stuff to be worried about on Saturday, I don't think this offense is to be the concern. I think it's crazy. It's actually flipped since last year. The defense is what I'm most worried about, which usually defense, has been the staple, whether it's Brent Pry or Manny Diaz. Now that Tom Allen's in there, I don't know. We have more question marks on that side of the ball 2 games into the year. So love what we're seeing from Singleton. That's another reason why I'd be really excited. Tyler Warren is my third reason. He is as advertised. You know, it's funny. He came in when it was 2021. Yeah, and he was backing up guys like Brenton Strange and Theo Johnson, and I never really looked at him as somebody who could have this high of an upside. And then those guys leave, and now it's his ball game now, and people are saying he has the opportunity to be the best tight end that Penn State's ever rolled out. He is the best tight end in the country, as James Franklin always says, the most complete tight end in the country. And I'm like, okay, he's solid, but I don't see that just yet. I see it now, especially after last game. Most yards ever by a tight end in Penn State history in one game. He played a phenomenal game, and that's why, I was talking about bright spots. I didn't necessarily put him in the equation because it relied on Drew Aller being as good as he was on Saturday, but Tyler Warren was definitely a bright spot on Saturday. And, he needs to pick it up because now we have some injuries in the tight end room, which we'll get to in a second when we get to the concerns. But, Chuck Losey said that he could be the best tight end in Penn State history, and right now, he's playing like it. So that's been a huge plus for this offense. And again, going back to trust with Drew Aller, Tyler Warren might be his biggest person that he could trust. So love what we're seeing from him. And Harrison Wallace, even though, yes, he was not up to par on Saturday against Bowling Green, that first game against West Virginia, we haven't seen anything like that from a Penn State receiver since Jahan Dotson. It was sensational. And that connection between Aller and Wallace, there have been all this talk in the preseason, like Harrison Wallace really emerging as a star receiver. It's going to be fun to see him and Aller connect. I wasn't buying into it because Harrison Wallace was always injured, and we never really got any flashes of him being a true wide receiver 1 last year. Well, we saw it. we saw it in week 1, and my concern after that game was this might be too good of a connection that Aller isn't going to want to spread the wealth. He's not going to want to throw to any other people. He's just going to solely focus on getting the ball to Harrison Wallace. It was that good and that successful. And, the 2 touchdown passes where the first one was just beautiful play design. And, again, Aller threw it on time, on target. And then the second one to the back corner of the end zone, I mean, beautiful, beautiful. The throw, the catch. This is a really, really high potential connection, a really high potential duo between Aller and Wallace. Hopefully it's more consistent and it's not going to be the type of thing where one game he's great and then the next game, like we saw on Saturday, he's kind of irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that you actually see signs that there could be a true game-changing number one receiver for Penn State, because we didn't have that last year. 2022, we didn't really have that either. We had a solid receiver room, but not one guy who could just break open a game. I think Harrison Wallace can break open a game, and that was so reassuring to see in week one. Hopefully, again, the consistency, we get it back. But yeah, that was incredible to see. And then defensively, again, I'm worried about the defense a little bit, but D-tackle has been a real strong suit. And coming into the year, that was a position group I didn't think was getting talked about enough. For once, we have real, legitimate depth at that position. They're big. They're stout. I think Zane Durant right now is the highest-graded PFF defender out of everybody. And, yeah, he has been – and when I say out of everybody on our team. Not nationally, but on our defense, he's the highest-graded guy. They have been very solid, very strong, whereas then there have been a lot of other question marks and parts of the defense that I didn't think I'd be worried about. So now that we've taken care of my reasons for excitement, let's get to the areas of concern. Number one being the fact that we're banged up. We're really banged up. Way more banged up than we should be after week 2 against a MAC team in Bowling Green. We're this many injuries. It's crazy. KJ Winston being the biggest one. KJ Winston, I know Abdul Carter gets a lot of flash and he gets a lot of attention. I think KJ is the best player that we have on that defense. I think he could be the best safety in the country if he's able to play, if he's available. Yeah, he wasn't in the entire second half last game. He also wasn't at the limited media window on Wednesday's practice, and that's a problem. That's a big problem, because you see what happened against Bowling Green on Saturday. We have to shift people around, and we have to try and make up for the fact that he's not on the field. Well, people play in positions they're not used to playing. People who are maybe more aggressive, like a Jalen Reed, might have to be more reserved, and we can't take as many chances defensively because we don't have our anchor, our best player on the defense. So that's a major problem, and I'm very concerned. I don't know exactly what his timetable is. We don't know what his injury is. I hope he comes back soon, because that's a huge loss if we don't have him for the beginning of Big Ten play later down the road. So fingers crossed he's able to get back to form and get back to being healthy. Rappleyea, somebody who Franklin said, which shocked me, has a long-term injury. We won't be seeing him for a while. Andrew Rappleyea was supposed to be a really big part of the tight end room. There were some people saying he was going to be second on the depth chart. And we need him to be, because we got Khalil Dinkins, who is coming off of some bangs and bruises himself. He missed a ton of the preseason, and he got a catch the other day against Bowling Green, but he's going to need some time to get back to shape. And then you have Reynolds in there as a true freshman. He hasn't played any football. I mean, he's gotten some snaps, and he had – did he have a catch the other day? I can't remember. I'll look that up later. But he's gotten into the mix, but he's still a true freshman. You need some depth in that receiver room, especially with Dinkins coming off of injury, and we just got another person injured. So that's really tough. And then Tamir Robinson at linebacker, who is not that big of a name, and kind of like Rappleyea, hasn't really shown a whole lot on the field. But this is a linebacker crew that is really the sore spot of the defense. And we lose Kavion Keys. He's no longer with the program. And then we have a linebacker in Tamir Robinson who has a really big upside, who's just not available because he was injured. So I don't know what his timetable is either. But just going off of that, the linebackers, they could be a real problem. They could be a real problem. Not in a good way. I'm not saying like, oh, yeah, they're a problem for opposing. No. They could be a problem for us. I was not confident at all coming into this season with where the linebackers were. And then we saw what they did against Bowling Green, and it was even worse. Even worse than what I could have imagined. Rojas is great. I worry about his tackling a lot. And that's another thing that I'll just get into right now. Tackling on this defense has been a big issue. They are not wrapping up anywhere near as much as they should be. And it was a major factor in the game on Saturday against Bowling Green. Rojas doesn't really wrap up. But he does make the big plays, and he can cover a running back in the passing game. He could cover a tight. He could cover anybody down the field in the passing game. He is so quick, and he had the huge interception on Saturday against Bowling Green. That was just an incredible play on the football. He is super talented. He's a playmaker, but I do worry about him tackling. But regardless, he's by far the best linebacker we got. Outside of him, I think Kobe King is slow. I think Dom DeLuca is slow. I definitely think Tyler Elston is slow. And we saw that against Bowling Green. Dom DeLuca, that first drive of the game, was worked. He was really worked the entire first half. It was almost as if Bowling Green was targeting him and saying, yeah, this guy's too slow to make a play. And one of the touchdowns, he was the subject, he was the receiver of the pick play, and he was either not quick enough to get around it or he just didn't see it happening. But, yeah, he just got absolutely torched, and he was so easily targeted by Bowling Green, and it was a problem. He had the one play where he was the sole blitzer, and we're like, dude, that's not his fault for being in that position. That's Tom Allen's fault for putting Dom DeLuca as your main blitzer, and he has to get to the quarterback or else there's going to be something wide open downfield. And sure enough, Bowling Green got a touchdown on that play because Dom DeLuca didn't get to the quarterback in time, and he was able to loft it to the end zone for an easy touchdown. So I worry about the linebackers a lot. The depth there is not good, and I don't know if we're going to be able to circumvent that. I don't know if that's going to continue to be a problem where teams are just going to target them because they're slow and not up to par with what we've had. But, yeah, I worry about them a lot. And Dom DeLuca, it was just an awful performance from him the other day. That being said, I knew that was going to be a problem. I knew that they were going to be an area of concern. I was not expecting the defensive ends to be a concern. And this might be more of a stylistic issue. It might be the way that Tom Allen prioritizes his, I guess, what he wants out of a defense. There was talk in the preseason that Tom Allen relies more on the secondary. He's not blitzing as much as a Manny Diaz. He's not putting as much pressure on the quarterback. He's relying on the secondary to create turnovers, pick the ball off, all sorts of stuff, which we do have a phenomenal secondary. Obviously, KJ Winston being out hurts that, but we have a great secondary. If that's your ideology, that's fine. But are we just going to have no pass rush? The defensive ends, I came into this year saying Abdul Carter and Denai Dennis-Sutton had the potential to be the best pair of defensive ends that I've ever seen at Penn State. Where has their impact been? Might be showing up on things other than the stat sheet. It might be showing up in the film that, yeah, they're doing their job. But we didn't get any pressure on that quarterback on Saturday. None. And, yeah, I don't know if it's just that they're not doing their job or it's Tom Allen who's not dialing up the rate. I don't know what it is, but I'm worried about that. I thought they were going to be disruptive and aggressive and just tormenting these opposing quarterbacks. They did a little bit against West Virginia, but Saturday was totally different. It was very odd. And on top of that, they just had so many undisciplined penalties. It's been bizarre. These are third-year guys, fourth-year guys. Vanover, throw him into the mix too. Like, they're jumping off sides. Abdul Carter had unnecessary roughness, or I forget what exactly the penalty was, but it's dumb. It's decision making, it's discipline. I've been shocked to see it. That's not usually what we get out of a Penn State defense, especially one as experienced as this one is. We've had some dumb penalties on that side of the ball, so that's been a major problem, and that worries me a little bit. And I guess that's pretty much it with the defense. But yeah, this defense, I thought that we were going to be even better than we were last year. And yes, while we had a great game one against West Virginia, and we were aggressive and we were flying all over the field and we were hard hitting, and we didn't get any of that on Saturday against Bowling Green. It was a complete opposite of what we saw week one, and it's worrisome. It's very worrisome. They were able to get not just 6 yards, 7 yards. They were getting huge chunk plays against our defense in the first half. So I don't know what that is. Hopefully it's something that you could correct. Hopefully it's something that you could fix. But my biggest worry is that this is just what Tom Allen is as a defensive coordinator. You just got to live with this. Well, I'm not happy with that at all, what we got on Saturday. Offensively, I brought up Harrison Wallace and how he could be a real wide receiver one for us. I still haven't gotten many signs that we have depth at that position, though. I said coming into the year, I don't know if the receivers, if that room is going to be any better than it was last year. We have a number one in Harrison Wallace, assuming he could be more consistent and be a reliable force every single Saturday. We have a wide receiver one, but outside of him, Fleming has only caught one pass so far. And it was a screen that was essentially okay, we got to get Julian involved somehow. Let's just throw a screen to him. That's all that was. He has one reception. Liam Clifford, I don't think has a reception at all. Amari Evans has evolved as more of a deep threat type of guy, and that's been great to see. But on two of those deep balls, he's pushed off. And he got lucky the first time against West Virginia. It wasn't called for an offensive pass interference, but we got burned against Bowling Green because he pushed off, again, as I said earlier in the video, for no reason. And he also had a massive drop on a gorgeous play by Drew when it was like 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 15. And we could have picked up a first down if Amari Evans doesn't have it just completely bounce off of his chest plate. So he's still got a lot of room to grow. I don't know. I really don't know. And Franklin says, we're not getting guys as involved as we should be in the passing game because we just haven't had as many plays. Maybe. But at the same time, we could have gotten Fleming in the mix by now. We could have gotten Liam Clifford in the mix by now. I don't know if it's just that they're not open or if Aller is locking in. Okay, game 1, Wallace is on a roll. Let's just feed Trey. Game 2, it's Tyler Warren. Let's just feed Tyler. I don't know what it is. But we have not seen so far that there is a better depth at the receiver position. We heard a ton about Clifford in the offseason. Where has he been? There's some reports saying that he's injured, that he's banged up. Fleming obviously was a huge transfer. We were so excited to get him. Hasn't been involved in the offense. He's been great at blocking on the exterior. I do want to give him credit on that. First game against West Virginia, people were saying that he was a phenomenal blocker in that game. But I want to see him catch some passes. I want to see him get in the end zone. We haven't seen it so far, so I don't know about the depth at that position. It's still pretty thin, but thankfully, yes, Wallace has emerged. And then the last thing that I have is that a game like this, you could say, oh, yeah, it's a fluke. It's a letdown game coming off of West Virginia. It happens. And truthfully, it has happened for James Franklin. He hasn't lost these games before. But you look back to Central Michigan in 2022. You look back to Villanova in 2021. We were tied with Buffalo, either tied or down by a field goal in 2019 at halftime. So this happens. We have had letdowns against inferior opposition. But the main worry is that you're putting stuff on film that other teams will be able to diagnose and exploit as a weakness. I hope that's not the case here because I saw a lot of things defensively where I'm like, oh, yeah, that might be a problem. Linebacker might be a problem. We're not getting a pass rush. That might be a problem. And Franklin said in the postgame, he's like, well, the other team, Bowling Green did such a good job of rolling the quarterback out and getting the ball out quick, and we couldn't really get to him. Well, what if everybody does that? What if everybody is getting the ball out quick? They were doing a fine job of moving the ball down the field, and that was a MAC team. Once we get into Big Ten play, are we going to be able to get a pass rush? Like, what's the deal with that? So I'm worried that there were things we put on film that could be exploited in turn when we get to the Big Ten season, when we get to these bigger games down the line. I don't know. Another concern is the fact that we had to play our starters for virtually the entire game instead of getting some guys who need reps. That's the type of game you play so you could get your starters out at halftime, and then everybody behind them is able to get in, get some experience. We didn't have that on Saturday. So that you worry about how that has rippling effects throughout the rest of the season. I don't know. Point being, it was not ideal, that game against Bowling Green. And you definitely, if you're panicked, I understand why. But you hope that this game coming up against Kent State clears those suspicions and gets rid of that skepticism and people can relax a little bit. We need to thump them. We need to blow Kent State out of the water. Hopefully that happens. We shall see. But that's pretty much it. Those are my 5 areas of excitement, my 5 areas of concern. I like where this team is at right now. Bowling Green game, it's in the past. You hope that we can learn from it and that we come out much better against Kent State. And I'll be watching. I'll be at a wedding that day back in Pennsylvania, which I'll be keeping tabs on my phone. And if it's during the ceremony, I hate to say this, I will probably be watching the game on my phone in the pews. So we'll see. Very excited for that game. I can't wait to fully get the taste of that Bowling Green game out of our mouth. Let's get back to West Virginia. Let's get back to all the exciting stuff from there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So thank you for tuning in. Enjoy this Saturday without Penn State football. Maybe go for a walk, go to the grocery store, do some laundry, something. But until Kent State and until the next time I see you, this has been Connor Griffin signing off. We are.